RIM fights back against Apple.
And Cisco surprises everybody by introducing a tablet computer. This and a whole lot more on the High Tech Countdown. Hi, I'm Shane Schick, Editor-in-Chief of IT World Canada.
And I'm Paolo, the editor of CDN Computer Dealer News. Shane, a lot to cover off this week, but front and center, RIM isn't too pleased with Apple's comments about their signal strength. This all started with the Apple IV. If you held it in your hands like this, it would lose its signal strength. It's been labeled AntennaGate. But instead of Steve Jobs admitting the design flaw, he decided to blame his competitors, namely RIM and HTC. This didn't go over well, as you can expect with RIM, and they issued the following statement. Apple's attempt to draw RIM into Apple's self-made debacle is unacceptable. Apple claims about RIM products appear to be deliberate attempts to distort the public's understanding of an antenna design issue and to deflect attention from Apple's difficult situation. RIM is a global leader in antenna design and has been successfully designing industry-leading wireless data products with efficient and effective radio performance for over 20 years, and blah, 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 blah. You can go over the rest of it. But Shane, this is definitely an underhanded tactic in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think RIM had to say something. I mean, if they're bashing their product, there has to be some kind of a tit for tat. But, the thing is, who cares on who's the global leader in antenna design? What people want is a smartphone that works. I mean, in this case, we had a smartphone that really worked, but had some problems with it. I think what the public cares about, what I would think the channel cares about, is have a product that performs as expected, and quit the squabbling, because it really doesn't serve anybody's purpose.
I totally agree, and that's why they teach in public relations school executives not to talk about other companies. And this is a classic case of foot being inserted in mouth, and I think Steve Jobs should know better. And the fact of the matter is, RIM has produced excellent products throughout their history. So what they should have done is just basically fix their own problems and moved on, and this story would have died. But instead, I feel bad for Apple users, well, iPhone users, because they're left basically holding the bag, creating a lot of excuses for their leader and Apple in the marketplace, and it's quite sad.
Cisco is best known for making routers and switches and other high-end networking equipment for enterprise IT executives. However, recently it surprised many in the industry by launching a tablet computer called the Cius. Now, speaking of Apple earlier, this is not intended as a product that will compete with the iPad, but something that would be specific for business executives.
So as you know, Shane, I cover Cisco quite closely, and I was actually at the launch, and I was surprised just as anyone else was, because I never thought that they would come out with a tablet computer. But I think the key thing is that it's meant for business. Now, will it end up being only for business? We'll see. But the application is the key here, and they developed an application for the Cius that works in a classroom setting. So it's obviously this is for a K-12 education market, where teachers can do their lessons planned on a Cius, which is docked and looks like an IP phone on her desk or his desk. But this application can also conference in parents if the child is having some difficulties. It can bring in subject matter experts from all over the world. The one example they used was bringing in a submarine captain from the AG&C, which I thought was really cool. The other thing too is, when a child is struggling, they usually, give them a tutor, which is across the street. But now you can have a tutor from anywhere on the planet, and it was definitely an application that was astonishing for me as a parent of two young girls. So I think this tablet's going to do well for this company.
Well, I think if we're talking about Cisco, it's all about the network, right? So I think that by launching a tablet, it's a way to demonstrate once again kind of the power of Cisco's underlying architecture. It's a device that could be used by corporate executives, and that makes total sense. It's not. I think the surprise is that we don't think of Cisco as supplying departmental kind of equipment. But on the same token, if you think of a Cisco phone, it is also tied into the network, and it demonstrates the power of that. So this is kind of an interesting shift where we're seeing it more from kind of an input device as opposed to just a phone. What's really interesting to me is that they're aiming it at business. So where everyone else is going after the consumer, from not just Apple, but to HP and a number of other device manufacturers, Cisco is definitely zigging where everyone else is zagging. That's great.
Shane, I just returned from the Microsoft Partner Conference held in Washington. It's their biggest ever. It was also the stage for the release of Windows Phone 7. Now, as you know, they skipped a generation and lost a lot of traction and users to the iPhone. And I just took this short clip of the Windows Phone 7. Let's take a look at it.
I have to laugh every time I hear someone use the phrase "an iPhone killer," which people have been, talking about with this device. Because, no one, was talking about a PC killer when, Microsoft made the device that's on everybody's desktop. It was just sort of that thing that was quietly useful that everyone kind of standardized upon. I think rather than, positioning it as something that's going to compete directly with the iPhone, it should really be focusing on the needs of the users. Just be reliable, just be great. There's no need to kind of keep comparing yourself to something that already has way more kind of mind share in the public eye than what Microsoft could hope to achieve.
My concern, and this is a great recovery for Microsoft for sure, but my concern is what is the advantage to the business user? And I've asked that question up and down to Microsoft executives. I didn't really get a good answer, a good feel for it. I mean, they do have the OneNote application for it, and that was fine. But I think they really need to aim at that marketplace, because I think the consumer marketplace is pretty much wrapped up with RIM and the iPhone. But it's definitely a good recovery from Microsoft with the Windows Phone 7.
Now, speaking of consumers, there was talk at this conference last year that Microsoft was going to start opening retail stores, much like Apple has done in a lot of the malls and sort of outside of those areas. I think they have 4 now in the U.S. What is the kind of outlook for Microsoft retail shops in Canada?
Well, I was surprised that they actually did have 4 located in the United States. So I asked the Canadian president of Microsoft, Eric Gales, that question, and this is his response.
I'd say you need to watch this space. I think the work started in the US because that's the biggest market, to see if we could really prove out that model. Those stores have been going very successfully, a lot of positive feedback. If you ever get a chance to go, I'd recommend in the US you go and take a look. And as we've seen those stores perform, now we're starting to build as a company the rollout plans. And given the size of the Canadian market, then I'd say Canada would be on the top of that list. But no confirmed plans yet, but watch this space.
So there you have it. It looks like there's going to be a store in Canada sometime soon, and it's not going to have a lot of channel conflict, in my opinion, because these stores, similar to the Apple store, is sort of like a product showcase, and a lot of the channel partners will have an opportunity to be part of these stores and show off their wares as well. So we'll see how it goes, and who knows if they're going to be successful against the Apple store, because that's been a pretty good winner so far.
What I'm wondering is, at the Apple stores, when you have the guys that really know the products well there, they refer to them as Apple geniuses. So I'm wondering what the workers for the Microsoft stores would call. I'm thinking Microsoft grunts, but we'll have to wait and see.
For sure. In related Microsoft news, it looks like the U.S. Court of Appeals will not hear another appeals case from Microsoft concerning their I4I $240 million IP infringement case. Looks like the next step for Microsoft will be the Supreme Court of the U.S. What do you think about this, Shane?
Well, it's interesting because every time and every stage of this lawsuit, when I4I has managed to win on an appeal, the jubilant press release that they issue is just like second to none. What's really fascinating to me is Microsoft has always positioned itself as somebody that really prizes intellectual property, and there's a lot of rumors going around that they've actually gone after potential open source kinds of companies and said that you might be infringing on our intellectual property. This is one of the first times I know of where looks like they've lost that battle. So it kind of repositions them from an intellectual property standpoint.
I know one of the funniest comments I ever heard is Loudon Owen from I4I comparing this case to a Joe Louis fight from the 1940s. But anyways, I totally agree with you, and I think Microsoft really wants to fight hard about this because they really believe they're right on this case. But sometimes you're going to have to cut your losses and move ahead. And I think there could be a play for them, not in the court system, but maybe in some sort of partnership to sort of ease their way out of this mess. But we'll see how it goes.
Paolo, do you remember that song from the 80s called Mirror in the Bathroom?
Oh, I love that song. It's from the English Beat.
Well, there's a German company called Fraunhofer that has made a touch screen display that can be used to remind you to brush your teeth as well as what kind of medicine to take.
Actually, I saw this just a while ago, and I think it's terrific. You actually click on these little boxes on the corner of the mirror that tells you, you have to brush your teeth, what kind of toothpaste you use, and also, what pills you use. And it's a great application for, obviously, those who forget to take their pills or have a lot of pills. It's where touchscreen technology is taking us, and I think it's going to be a terrific application.
I think it's great too. I think they should have called it the iWash.
Except Apple didn't invent it.
Yeah, well, call the patent lawyer.
All right. Well, that's it for now. I'm Paolo Nibletto for CDN Computer Dealer News.
And I'm Shane Schick from IT World Canada. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.